Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Finding Calm During Chaos, part of the Federation's Winter Wellness Series. My name is Scott Simon, and I am so glad to be the MC for tonight's program. I'm the chair of the Federation's Overseas Connections Committee, and I'm founder of an organization called Scare Your Soul, which is a grassroots courage movement rooted in my studies of positive psychology and courage. I'm also a mindfulness and meditation teacher, and I'm passionate about the impact that mindfulness meditation has on our lives. I am so thrilled that you're joining us this evening. Before we begin tonight, I would like to just take a minute to thank two very important people. Federation President David Heller, Federation Board Chair David Heller, and Federation President Erica Rudin-Luria for their leadership during this unprecedented time. You've both navigated these uncharted waters with so much skill, and tonight's program is just another example of the creativity and purpose that you bring to our community. Thank you so much. And of course, to the entire Federation staff, quite literally the best Federation or nonprofit staff in the entire country. An event like this would not happen without your creativity and guidance and support. So thank you all so much. I'd like to talk to you just for a moment about mindfulness meditation and the reason that this event, I think, is so important at this time. Many of you know Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is a member of the Jewish community, who described mindfulness as paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. And mindfulness meditation and mindfulness practices, if you think about it, are really endemic to many of the things that we do in our own Jewish lives. If you think about lighting Shabbat candles, if you can almost inhabit that moment and think about what it's like when you're lighting Shabbat candles with your family or friends, you're not thinking about your grocery list or what you're doing next Tuesday. You are in that moment. You're experiencing that moment. When we bring kavanah to our prayer or our chanting, we are aware in that moment, we're present in that moment. And that is so endemic to us as Jews. We have a drive and an urge towards awareness, towards searching and seeking, both in the external world and within ourselves. But as I'm sure you're aware, mindfulness meditation is not just a religious experience or a Jewish experience, certainly. It has so many benefits, so many ways that allow us to find calm in a time like we have right now, where so much is in flux, there's so much change, dare I say there's so much anxiety, worry about the health and welfare of our families, our loved ones, our communities, our brothers and sisters around the world. There could be no better time for us to have an event like this with the two people that you'll experience this evening, and hearing from a third that I think are going to bring that level of calmness and of centeredness and peace to you at a time when we need it the most. And that really is what tonight is all about. You're going to be hearing from and experiencing with two really amazing practitioners in the field of mindfulness. We'll be doing a movement-related practice, and we will be doing a guided meditation and stillness practice. And after that, you'll be hearing about a program that is close to my heart and many of yours, I'm sure, and that is the Youth Futures program that we started and continue to support in our sister communities of Beit Shan and Valley of the Springs in Israel. So we'll be talking about that after the two practices, but tonight really is about experience. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you the two experts and practitioners, Yoshi Silverstein and Lori Wald. We'll begin with Yoshi, the founder and executive director of the Mitsui Collective, which builds resilient community through embodied Jewish practice and racial equity. As a Chinese Ashkenazi American Jew, he is actively involved in both national and local education and advocacy work by and for Jews of color. Yoshi is a longtime Jewish nature educator, and he's a movement teacher with a wide range of experience in Jewish communal engagement and leadership development. He's originally from Spokane, Washington, and he moved to the Cleveland area in August 2019 with his wife, and they're excited to now live in Shaker Heights with their daughter and their pup, Norman Jellybean. I love that name. And after Yoshi, we'll turn to Lori Wald, who is a certified mindfulness facilitator from the, get this, UCLA Mindful Awareness Research Center at the Semel Institute for Neuroscience and Human Behavior. We have a real professional with us tonight. Lori has conducted continuing education courses on the topic of mindfulness and has taught nursing home residents, primary and middle school students, as well as private groups, both in person and on Zoom, and on her Facebook page, Nothing Doing. Her essays about mindfulness have been published in literary journals, The Plain Dealer, and the Journal of the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association. And while Yoshi and Lori are leading you, please feel free to add in any questions you have into the chat box. We're going to make some time at the end for some Q&A. So with that, I will turn it over to Yoshi Silverstein.
Thank you so much, Scott, and hello, everyone. Good evening. It's such a delight to be on with you. So we're going to jump right into some embodied practice. We're going to do a number of things. We're going to start here in our space. We'll start with some orienting to space and some breath work, and then I'll invite folks to get up from your chairs. If you feel able and comfortable doing so, I'll give some other modifications along the way. So we'll spend a few minutes, or have the opportunity to spend a few minutes up from our chairs, and then we'll come back and finish up, and I'll pass it over to Lori. So just to give you a sense of how the next few minutes of our lives together are going to go. So with that, I want to just really bring us into the space. So then just, wiggle around, shift in your chair just to sort of, sort of settle into your seat wherever you are. We're going to do first a practice that will just orient us to this space. If you're like me, you've been spending a lot of time right here, but it's always nice to sort of bring ourselves back into the space in this time and in this moment. So let's begin first by just looking all the way up and tilt your chin all the way up. Feel some stretch through your spine and just look up at the ceiling. Just notice what you see. And then we'll bring back to center and then curl all the way down so you're curling your spine and you're now looking straight down at the floor. And then bring your spine back up, just straight and relaxed. We're now going to turn all the way through the spine and the hips. So I'm going to turn all the way around so that I'm looking 180 degrees behind me. I'm going to face this way just so you can hear me, but look all the way behind you. Take a moment, notice what's there. Really feel this stretch through your spine. Feel the twist in your hips. And then nice and slowly observing what you're seeing as you're coming back around to front and center. And we'll do now the other way. A nice twist, looking again 180 degrees behind you. Pause and notice maybe things look very slightly different coming from this side. And then slowly just do a scan of your room as you're turning back and coming to center. So probably nothing radically surprising around in your space, although maybe, but it just helps to sort of bring that awareness to what's around us. So now let's bring that awareness inside the body. We're going to do some breath work. This is a breathing exercise that I like to call lulav breathing. It comes from the choreography of shaking the lulav, which is the bundle of native plants that we shake during the holiday of Sukkot. And we shake it in all four directions, in front and behind and to either side and above and below. So we're going to do that with the breath. So I'll invite you to close your eyes. You can also keep them open. It's up to you. Settle into your chair again. Get your feet either on the ground, or you can also bring them cross-legged, something that just feels rooted and comfortable for you. And just a nice upright spine, not really straight and rigid, not like this, but just nice and aligned, all your vertebrae stacked on top of each other. We'll start with just some deep breaths, just into the center of the body, in and out. And we'll begin our lulav breathing by breathing into the front of the body. So direct your breath towards the front. Feel your chest rise and then fall as you breathe out. Feel the front of your ribs expand as you breathe in and contract as you breathe out. And one more breath to the front. And as we're doing this, just notice how all of these different things feel in your body. Notice how you're feeling today. Maybe you're feeling good, maybe feeling stiff, tired, refreshed. And now breathe into the back. So feel those back ribs open and close as you breathe in and out. Feel those big muscles on the top half of your back stretch and relax as you breathe in and out. As you breathe in, feel your spine curve a little bit, and then relax and straighten as you breathe out. And take one more breath to the back and out. Next, we breathe into our right side. So feel the right side of the body. Those are the right ribs, open and close. Feel as though you're directing your breath through your shoulders on the right, through down to your elbows, out through your fingertips. Let's give oxygen to the right side. This is the side that's associated with doing and with action. So here we give some oxygen to all the things that we have on our to-do list this week. Oxygen is literally the fuel it's the oxygen to the flames of the things we're doing this week. Take one more breath into the right side and out. Now we turn to the left side, breathing all the way into the left ribs, follow through the shoulder to the elbow, down to the fingertips. This is the side where your heart is, so breathe into your heart. Give that oxygen to the things that you're feeling right now, the things you're feeling this week, whether that be happiness and joy for the month of Adar, the Jewish Hebrew month we're in right now. Feelings of grief and sadness and loss that are all too common these days. Breathe into those. Next, we breathe up. So feel your collarbones rising and falling, your shoulders lifting up as you breathe in. Give some oxygen all the way up into your brain and out. This is oxygen to everything we're thinking about. Giving that oxygen to your brain so it can work a little better. Take one more breath above and let it out. And now we breathe down into the belly. Deep belly breaths all the way in. Feel your belly open and close, the bottom of your diaphragm pulling the air in. Here we give oxygen to our digestion. Maybe literally if you just had dinner, but also to digesting everything that you've been doing and thinking and feeling, whether that be this weekend or this month or over the last year. As we approach the holiday of Purim, which for many is the anniversary of being in this challenging time. And now breathe back into center. And now, as you breathe into center, feel your breath expand in all 6 directions into a sphere globally, 360 degrees all around, and feel that expansion. And here we breathe into the 7th dimension, the dimension of Shabbat, the dimension of Shalom, of peace, of Shlemut, of wholeness, of rest. The 7th dimension is the dimension of the sacred center. It's this dimension that fills the space. And so as we come to a close of our lulav breathing, we breathe into our own presence, each and every one of us that are making this space, physical and virtual space, unique. We breathe into the knowledge that it wouldn't be the same without you here. We'll take one more nice deep breath into the center, feel that expansion, and you can slowly open your eyes. We're going to now come to a few minutes of standing movement. I'm going to switch my camera over so you can see me a little bit better. And Thank you, Melanie. I see the question. Embodied practice. So I'm going to speak to this for 20 seconds and switch my camera. And as you're doing this, if you want to stand up for this movement, I encourage you to go ahead and stand up and move your chair and make a little space right now. Embodied practice or embodied Jewish practice. Embodiment is in the body. So I like to think of embodied Jewish practice as ways of experiencing Judaism and Jewish practice and learning through our body. So these are a few ways that we're experiencing that or exploring that tonight. So I'm going to change my camera over. All right. So we're going to do some standing movement for just a few minutes. I'm going to stand here. If you're like me and you've got pandemic slippers on all the time, you can keep them on, but I recommend taking them off. I like to have a little bit more ground feel as I'm doing this. So we're standing right here. First, just have some nice straight, again, not rigid, but just nice and straight. Feel that alignment from head to toe. Just do a little check-in. How's your body feeling right now? We're going to do some 6-point movement. We're going to play with the Jewish star, the Star of David, the 6-pointed star, to just guide some of our movement. And now just open up the body a little bit more. So we're going to start in the head. I'm going to just go to this point. And imagine that star is around me. So I'm going to go to the first point and then bring it back. I'm going to go to the second point here. Third, fourth point of that star is right behind me. 5 this way, and 6. And then back to the front and going the other way. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're now going to go into the chest and spine. So don't worry if you feel like you look a little goofy, because hey, no one can see you. So that's one benefit of being on the virtual screen, right? So I'm just going to open up here and to each direction, each point of the star, just trying to move the spine, get that top of the body to touch that point on the star, and come back the other way. 4, 5, and 6. Now let's get in the hips. 1, 2, really feeling things open up here. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the other way. 1. This one looks goofy, but hey, no one can see you. 3. I'll take all the goofiness for everyone. 5 and 6. And finally in the knees. And if you're doing this from sitting, then just try to move to the extent that you can. And if you can't quite move everything, then that's totally okay. And then let's go back the other way. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now notice as I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep everything else aligned and stacked over the center. I'm only moving in that one part of the body. So now we're going to come back up and we're going to connect those points through a circle. So circle around clockwise with the knees and then counterclockwise, connecting those points of the star. Let's do it in the hips, circling around and back. Now in that chest, feel that full stretch through the spine. And here, and then finally in the neck and here. All right, so last thing is now we're going to just try to connect all of those in a spiral, because Jewish time is a combination of cyclical. We go and we're cycling through the holidays and the seasons, and also linear. We're moving forward through time. So we're going to embody that by trying to connect each of those circles here in a spiral movement, up and down. This might feel a little silly. Try to go both directions. Try to just be smooth with it, but playing with it as well. Just getting into our bodies and feeling how this all feels to be in our bodies after probably what for many folks is a long day of sitting at the computer. All right, so last piece is I can now start to maybe play with some stepping back and forth, and now I have just a little bit more openness in my spine and neck and knees, and I'm just sort of playing with it, playing with being expressive in my body. And so from here, I'm going to have our tech folks are going to put on a little music. And what I'm going to give us the opportunity to do is just play with these movements that we've just been practicing for the last 4 minutes. We're going to play that music for just about 60 seconds, not a super long time. And just take that opportunity to move in this space, move in your body a little bit, and then we'll come back together and close this piece out and pass it on to Lori. So if we can get the music playing. There we go, great. All right, so again, just play with it. There's no right here, or sorry, there's no wrong here. And also just watch me if you want. I'm not really a dancer, but I'll play with it. And go ahead. Just play with these different movements, play with the different spots in the body. Keep the music playing for about 6 seconds. I'm gonna stop talking. I'll invite you to move your body and the music in your space.
The heart is a muscle contracting, expanding. Feel the waves and learn the lessons. Time. It's gonna take time. The heart is a muscle contracting, expanding. Feel the waves and learn the lessons. Time. It's gonna take time. Hey, you're doing okay. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take time. Hey, hey, you're doing okay. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take time.
Make
The
your
heart
way.
is a muscle
After you here.
contracting, expanding.
I'm gonna switch my camera back over here as we come to a seat. Go ahead and come just to a seated position back here. Welcome back. And briefly just close your eyes. Let's take a couple deep breaths. Opening into each of those directions of the body. And just notice how your body's feeling right now. Make a little note. What did you learn in that little period of movement? What wisdom is your body carrying that you want to hold on to? Just give a couple deep breaths, acknowledging that wisdom your body holds. Take one more deep breath and let it out. I'm so delighted to pass back over to my colleague, Lori. Thank you so much.
Hello. Thank you, Yoshi. So everyone, just take a moment here to notice how you feel now after doing, and I got a little knee pop in there, which felt really good. But how do you feel now? Let's just take just a moment. Just notice what you're feeling in your body, in your head, in your heart. Do you notice any tranquility, anxiety, spaciousness? Just take a moment, notice. So mindfulness, as Scott was mentioning at the beginning, and John Kabat-Zinn is really the grandfather of mindfulness meditation in our country. But mindfulness, my definition, is an awareness of your present experience as it is, not as you would prefer it to be, with courage, with creativity, and with compassion. So these days, all days, we are so excellent at worrying. We've been practicing worrying for our entire lives. And now during this pandemic, some call it the great magnifier, we're worrying more than ever. When will I get my vaccine? Will I get sick? Am I going to go back to work? What's happening next? There's just so much uncertainty and so much to worry, of course. And we practice worrying, so we're really good at it. And mindfulness, this skill that we can all cultivate and develop is what can be somewhat of an antidote to worry. It's not that the worry is going to go away, but being mindful, being in the present moment, not in worrying about the stupid thing you said yesterday, or how the weather is going to affect what you need to do tomorrow, but being right here, right now is just so helpful to see everything, to see all of it. So, little story. A couple years ago, I was driving my husband to the hospital. We were waiting for results on a test where the results could have been very devastating. And of course, we were all upset, worried, unknown, what's going to happen? Are our lives going to be turned upside down? So we're driving down Shaker Boulevard, and I noticed there's a few daffodils popping up right on that icy edge of winter. Just that yellow, I noticed. And it gave me such a spark of joy. I think yellow is my favorite color because it's just so joyous. And it wasn't that I wasn't worried anymore, and it wasn't that I wasn't anxious anymore, but I was also mindful of the daffodils. So we can train ourselves to see what we have right here in front of us. I wasn't mindful the whole day, but I had a moment, and that moment gave me a little bit of relief. So through these mindfulness practices, we can learn to sink down and find what's okay within us, because there's always some okayness within us. When you're feeling okay, it's not because something outside of it is making you okay, it's in there. So we have those little moments, and through mindfulness, we can learn to hold the paradox. So we have the anxiety, we have the worry, we have it all, but we also can hold the beauty and the grace and the love at the same time, because it's all there all the time. We just have to find it. Okay, so let's do it. I'm going to do 3 techniques to cultivate mindfulness. We're going to do a breathing technique. We're going to do a body awareness scan, and then finally we're going to sit in stillness. And if at any time my voice is annoying you or you just don't want to listen anymore, just ignore me. So once again, sit in a comfortable and dignified position and see if you can find your breath. Now, for some people, it's pretty easy to find their breath. It's obvious our breath is always with us, right? But sometimes it's hard to see where it is. But if you can find it, the rise and fall of your belly, the rise and fall of your chest, or even if you want to put a finger under your nostril and feel that air as it goes in and out of your nostrils, you can just notice your breath. And once you've found your breath, you're going to start to count each inhale and exhale to the count of 1 until you get to 10 or until you lose track. So this is the part where it gets a little bit tricky, but we're going to start. So if you want to close your eyes, that's fine. Otherwise, open eyes is perfectly fine. But find your breath. Inhale. Exhale is 1. Your next inhale and exhale is 2. And just keep going until you get to 10 or until you lose track. And if you lose track, start again. Something distracts you, a noise, you forgot to turn your cell phone off, you remember something you were supposed to do that you forgot to do, simply start again. And this time when you get to 10, open your eyes. I'm at a disadvantage here. You guys can see me, but I can't see you. So just that breathing technique, mindful breathing, I love it because it just lets you make mistakes, doesn't require you to be any certain way. But just that alone can help cultivate some mindfulness. And the tricky part is, and some people think that meditation means that you're going to banish your thoughts, you're going to be sitting in perfect lotus position at the top of a mountain, perfectly blissed out and serene. But really, the meditation is that when you notice when you're distracted, and then you come back. So just this breathing technique, maybe you get to 4 and you go, oh God, you're off, you're writing your grocery list. It's okay, that's the important part. Notice, and then you come back. From here, we're going to do a body awareness scan, and then we are going to sit in stillness just for a couple minutes. So once again, find your comfortable and dignified position. Notice your breath. And if you would, use your imagination and imagine a soft, bright light that's floating out right in front of your eyes. And it's so soft and so warm. And as it shines into your eyeballs actually relax in their sockets. The light comes down to your cheeks, to your jaw, and allow your jaw to become soft and warm and relaxed. Jaw is a place where we hold so much stress. And see if you could let your jaw relax. Even allow the light to go inside so your mouth, so your tongue is bathed in light and your tongue is relaxed. The light comes down your throat, onto your shoulders. Everything that you've been carrying around with you all this time slides off of your shoulders, and your shoulders are relaxed. The light comes down your arms, to your hands, to the palms of your hand where you may feel a vibration of energy. The light comes up your arms to your chest, and your entire chest cavity is bathed in this warm, soft light. Even your heart beats a little bit more relaxed. The light comes down to your belly. Just let your belly go slack. Allow the light to travel down your legs, down to your feet, to the bottoms of your feet. The entire bottoms of your feet are soft and warm and relaxed. The light comes back up your legs to your seat where you have consented to sit. So sit and be relaxed. And now allow the light to come up your spine. Each and every vertebrae is soft and warm and relaxed. Your spine is a perfect metaphor for everything we want. It's strong enough to hold you erect and flexible enough to let you bend. The light comes up your neck to the back of your skull, to the top of your skull. And now your thoughts and your brain are still there, but they're just a little bit softer and more relaxed. And now we'll sit together in stillness. And I'll guide you. If you don't want to pay attention to my guiding, that's fine. Just be back with your breath. If you're having some trouble finding your breath, you could really concentrate on the sounds that are around you. Just as you're listening to the sounds, you might notice a story start in your head. Oh, this is from that. I was supposed to do this. I wonder what's on TV, what's on Netflix. Just notice the story and come back to your breath or the sounds without a story. And you might notice There's a feeling of serenity inside. You might notice there's a river of anxiety inside. You might notice both. Just come back to your breath or the sounds. Mindfulness meditation is a practice, just like we've practiced worrying for all our lives. Now we're practicing finding the stillness and noticing. It's a powerful and very subtle practice. What it will bring to you, I don't know, but it will bring you something. And now for the last minute, just stop trying. Just stop trying. And that's all. Thank you for meditating with me. Scott, to you.
Lori, thank you so much. Lori and Yoshi, those were beautiful practices. Thank you so much. I did want to throw a question out to two of you um, about how often do you need to engage in these practices for them to help? Is this a one-time experience? Do you need to do it consistently? Love to get your thoughts on that. Yoshi, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think as folks may have experienced tonight from doing it once, if you felt like you benefited in some way, then on the one hand, the answer is you can do it once and you can benefit. That said, it's called a practice for a reason. You have to keep practicing. And there is no end. There's no there. There's actually, like Lori, I love that. Like, there's not that the idea of the lone figure on the top of the mountain finally reaching, enlightenment. I mean, for me at least, it's like I want to be moving in the process towards that. I have no personal assumption that I will ever get there, and I'm not sure I want to. And so I think having just some regular practice, and the last thing I'll say here is just finding moments throughout your day to practice can be at least as effective, sometimes in certain ways more effective, than trying to carve out a full session, whether that be 20 minutes or an hour, and so like don't let that like, oh, I don't have the time. Try not to let that get in the way. It's sort of, whether it's for the mindfulness or for the movement practice, like the more actually that you work this into things you're already doing, right? Like, oh, I'm putting the dishes away, like, ooh, that's a little you know what I mean? Like, when you're doing that kind of thing, one, is just beneficial to be in the body, and two, you're finding those little moments to keep practicing, and I think you can get a lot of benefit out of that.
Yeah, there's that great practice or that great concept of doing the dishes, that when you're doing the dishes, you can either do it without thinking, you can do it on autopilot, or you can actually feel the water over your fingers. You can feel the temperature. You can be present in that moment. So even doing the dishes is an opportunity for a mindful practice. Lori, I'd love to toss it to you for your comments on that.
Doing the dishes is a great one. I love the idea of when you take your shower, really take a shower, smell the shampoo, notice the water. Don't start planning about how quickly you can get out so that you can make it to Starbucks before you get to work. That's always one that takes over really quickly. Yeah, I used to tell people when I first started teaching, every day 20 minutes. And it turned out that was a really bad thing to tell people, because you don't want it to be another thing on your to-do list. Like, I already have so much to do. Now, I think consistency is important. If you could do 1 minute a day, one of Yoshi's breathing techniques, or just, inhale 5 seconds, exhale 5 seconds, repeat it 6 times, you're good. And hopefully it grows.
Great. There was one other question I'd like to throw to the two of you, and that has to do with beginners and beginners approaching a practice. I think we all know there are great apps out there and great books and podcasts, but do you have specific recommendations if somebody is a beginner, a place that they can go to begin a practice? Lori, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, there's so many resources now. I love 10% Happier. I love everything. I love everything about it. I like the podcast. I like the app. I like all of it. Also, UCLA, my teacher, Diana Winston, does free, I think 30-minute practices that you can get a free app from UCLA. There's an awful lot of places to go, but I think some of it is just being aware and starting to notice how you feel. And when you do feel worried, emotions last about 90 seconds. And you can train yourself that I can deal, I can do this. So just starting to notice what you're feeling.
Yoshi, we just got another question in, so I'm going to throw this one to you if you don't mind. Whenever I try to meditate, I think about all the things I need to add to my to-do list. I think we've all had that feeling. How do I handle this, Yoshi? Give us the wisdom when the to-do list enters your mind as you're in your practice.
Yeah, well, there's two things. One, and this is something Lori said, and it was kind of subtle, so I heard it, and I hope others heard it, but I'll pull it out, which is that idea of you get distracted and coming back to it. And actually, that's meditation. I loved that. Because for me too, we think of meditation or mindfulness as only the moments when you sort of feel that sense of connection and emptiness and the really good buzzing feelings, which are great. But that's part of the practice, and that act of getting distracted and bringing it back, that is as much meditating. You're not meditating when you're doing that. That is meditating. So I loved that. And so I think just remembering that. And then the other thing that I find really helpful when I have those distractions that are coming in, sometimes it really helps to, we talk about embodied practice, and sometimes that means disembodying things. So you can imagine that you have a bowl in front of you on the floor, on your desk, or wherever you are. And when you feel those distractions coming through, imagine in your mind, right? Try to envision this, that you're taking that distraction, maybe going, boop, whatever sort of is like a good visualization for you, and you're putting it in that bowl for later. And just envision that oh yeah, I have to do this. Okay, I'm noticing it, I'm putting it in the bowl for later, and then I'm coming back into my breath and my body, and trying to just bring it back into the center.
That's great. Terrific advice. Thank you both so much. We're going to be coming back to Yoshi at the very end, so please stick with us to the very end. Believe me, it will be worth it. As I mentioned previously, I am honored to be the chair of the Federation's Overseas Connections Committee, which deals with all of our work with our brothers and sisters across the world. certainly in Israel and the former Soviet Union. And one of our programs, which I think is one of the most touching, impactful, and also has a mindfulness component, is our Youth Futures program in Beit Shan and Valley of the Springs. So I'd like to welcome Mark Holtz to the conversation. He's chair of our Beit Shan subcommittee, which oversees the work in Beit Shan and Valley of the Springs. Just a word before Mark begins about Youth Futures. It deals with at-risk youth, helping to overcome obstacles. Children in Youth Futures face learning disabilities, behavioral difficulties, poverty, and instability in their families. And you can only imagine during the era of COVID, the needs that are required when these kids are not in school and they're at home with multiple siblings. Our program has become even more important. And through the program, a professional mentor works with each child and the family one-on-one and in group sessions. They work with each child and their family for 3 to 5 years to help these children. You can imagine the relationships that are built and the impact that is created by this incredible program. And due to Mark and the work of our foundation, there is a mindfulness component to this program now. So I'd like to turn it over to Mark to tell us more.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, everybody. So I've actually been involved with Youth Futures for over 6 years. My family and I got involved with Youth Futures before we even got involved with Federation. That's how far back I go. And one of the things I noticed is that many of the kids have anger issues and impulse issues. And when I was talking to the mentors, I would ask the mentors like what they do with the kids. And they said, well, we do some breathing exercises, we do some counting exercises. And I realized very quickly that they're actually doing mindfulness techniques. And they were intuitively doing this. They had no formal training. They didn't even realize that they were doing this, that they were using mindfulness to help their kids. As a meditator myself, I wanted to formally get the mentors some training so that they can have it in their toolkit as they work with the kids, and they can go deeper to help the kids deal with these anger issues and these impulse control issues. So on my last trip to Israel, actually right before COVID, we found a mindfulness therapist to come in and train the mentors on mindfulness techniques that they can take back and use with their kids, and in some cases even use with the parents of the kids, because it's a very holistic approach with the mentors working with the entire family. And we wanted it to be approachable and simple and easy to understand. We didn't want them to think that they're actually meditating or that they're doing mindfulness. It's just a tool that they had in their toolkit to use with their kids. We ran 3 1.5-hour training sessions in March, right before the lockdown, for our Youth Future mentors. And we actually did it twice, once for the Beit Shan mentors and once for the Valley of the Springs mentors because of COVID. But we ran 3 sessions in each of the sister cities. And then during the sessions, the mentors learned breathing exercises and various exercises, mindfulness exercises, designed for them and then to take back to their students to listen to the inner voice, to listen to the voices of their kids, and relaxation exercises that they can use when they start having these impulse and anger control issues. We will be holding another round of sessions next month. So far, it has been very successful and very well received by both the mentors and the kids that they're working with. And we're hoping, quite honestly, to create a model that can be used by Youth Futures nationally. We want it to be something that can be mirrored and repeated, and all the kids in all the Youth Futures chapters all over the country can use these tools and these tricks to help with their anger and impulse control issues. So I want to thank Federation for giving me the time to share this initiative with everybody, and I'm very excited about it. And with that, I would turn it back to Scott.
Mark, thank you so much. It is amazing and heartwarming to see the work that we are doing with our brothers and sisters in Beit Shan and Valley of the Springs. So thank you so much, and thank you for everything you're doing. For those participating tonight, if you are having trouble coping yourself or know somebody in your family that is, you can always call Access Jewish Cleveland to be connected to resources. These are free and confidential, and referral services for the entire Jewish community. I'd like to just highlight before we close this beautiful program tonight, by telling you about 2 additional programs on Monday, the 15th at 7, when we present Finding Spiritual Resilience in a Year of COVID-19 with Rabbi Melinda Mersak and Rabbi Benjamin Blau. At this program, hosted by Beth Rosenberg, you'll learn to find spiritual resilience during a time of physical distancing and unlock the tools of Jewish wisdom that provide us with sustenance and strength. And finally, for parents with young children aged 8 and under, PJ Library, which was very important to my children as they were growing up, invites you to attend the following 2 events. Sunday, March 7th at 10 a.m., the PJ Library Challah Bake-Along with one of our favorite Grandma Savta, Cleveland Savtas, Hetty Milgram. Join Hetty and her grandchildren as they bake challah and share stories of the ways of their family. And on Sunday, March 21st at 10, PJ Library Family Yoga, an opportunity for your family to strengthen your body and minds through child-friendly yoga. So thank you again to Yoshi and to Lori and to Mark and to all of you for joining us tonight. It was an incredible experience to find a sense of calm in the middle of the chaos of our world. And in the spirit of mindfulness, we thought we would close out tonight and take a mindful take on the Shema that you can incorporate yourself into your nighttime rituals. So with that, I will turn it over to Yoshi, and thank you again to all of you.
Thanks again, Scott and Lori and Mark and everyone. So we're gonna do just a little singing to close us out. I just put in the chat the words to a song called B'Shem Hashem. B'Shem Hashem means in the name of Hashem, which is in the names of God. And this is sometimes called the Angel's Lullaby. So this comes from the liturgy from the nighttime Shema. So you may remember that traditionally, as Jews were instructed to recite the Shema before we go to bed at night and when we wake up in the morning. And for many of us, this is something that maybe we do at synagogue, or at camp. But there's also something that's like a very personal practice to do literally right as you're going to sleep. And so this comes from that liturgy. And the words speak to the angels, these angels of God. And so it says, in the name of God, of Hashem, God of Israel, to Mimini, Michael, to my right, Michael, to my left, Gavriel, behind me, Uriel, in front of me, Uriel, and behind me, Raphael, and Al Roshi, above my head, Shekhinah Tel. Shekhinah is the sort of feminine divine presence of God. And so each of these angels actually are manifestations of God. So God, like Gavriel, Gever, El is the strength of God. Raphael, Refuah is the healing presence of God. Uriel is the light of God. So we're really thinking about being surrounded. And if we think about that act of going to bed, it's actually a pretty, even though it's regular, we do it most nights, it's this tremendous act of vulnerability and of trust that we will wake up in the morning, right? And so this is actually a really critical time when we're asking to be in a space of protection as we go to sleep. And that's what this prayer is really all about. So I invite you to sing along with me if you would like. Of course, we won't be able to hear you, but this is my own act of trust and faith that, at least some folks are singing along with me. And so we'll sing it through a couple of times. I'll then close my eyes and invite you to recite the Shema with me, which is also in the chat, and then we will close up for the night. position. Close our eyes and we'll say Shema together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to put my information in the chat and I invite Lori to do the same. Turn it back over to Scott for any closing words, and then we'll play you. Oh, we're all done, so we'll put it in the chat, and I'll play a little music to close us out, and we'll keep it open for another minute or so if you want to listen to some music. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming to us.